Hello everybody, my name is Andrew and welcome to the Deaf Kiwi Diversity Series. So perhaps you could choose one item here on the table that you'd like to discuss. Cherie, perhaps you'd like to start. Is there something here that you'd like to share with us? And what is this, Cherie? This is called a pew pew. This is the sign for it, pew pew. It's something that's used in kapahaka performances and so on. A lot of hard work involved, very difficult thing to make this. And you can see here at the top this waistband. This is something that's particularly personal and connected to the person wearing it. We also have this particular word, tāniko. And the sign we use in this case is tāniko, which represents something meaningful to you or relevant to your whakapapa. And I can see that there are two parts here, the waistband, and then there's also the rest of the pew pew. So what is that made of? How do you, what's the material there? Well, if you see the harakeke flax, you take a really, really tough leaf. You don't take the leaves of the flax that are bent over. Those ones that are bent over are actually quite useful for kete baskets because they're quite flexible and soft. The other parts of the harakeke that are really tough are very suitable for pew pew or for korowai because they include a lot of muka, which is, you can see the white part there. There's plenty of muka in the leaf. That's fibre. There's plenty of fibre in the flax leaf. And so when you cut the flax, you have to remember to save, or should I say, you don't cut the leaves in the middle of the flax bush, you cut the leaves from the outside. They're known as the grandparents, and they're the ones that you cut. And that ensures the life of the plant and keeps it healthy. And also you've got to remember not to cut when it's raining. That's also very well-known Māori traditional knowledge. When you do the cutting, you take the leaf and you split it lengthwise, and it's quite difficult. You also have to get rid of the base of the leaf. And then what you do is you start to remove sections of the leaf in 2 centimetre chunks. So you alternate between keeping a part of the leaf and then you scrape off the outside of the leaf in a 2 centimetre chunk there, and you alternate all the way down the leaf. Okay, so it's like maybe 250 leaves that you need to go through this process. You then put those leaves into a pot of very hot water, looking at 200 degrees, boiling water, leave it in for a few minutes, and that helps to soften the harakeke. And then after that, you hang up the harakeke. It still looks like leaves at that point. You've got to leave it out hanging like that for about 1 or 2 weeks, and then it starts to roll around itself. Does it itself? Yes. When it's hanging up, it'll start to curl over, and you've got to make sure that when it curls around that each edge of the leaf touches each other, so it makes a perfect circle. And so you can see there's a black and yellowish colour there. So how you do that is if you just go down to a river or you get some mud from a riverside or something like that and bring a bin, put some mud into the bin with a little bit of water. Actually doesn't necessarily smell very nice. Take that home, put the leaves into the basket for about 48 hours. Until you see that the exposed fibres absorb the colour of the mud. You can't really do that soaking for 24 hours. It will only create a very light colour, light grey colour. You've got to leave it for about 48 hours or more. It's really going to darken those exposed fibres. And then you hose it down. You've got to think about it smells as well. So you've got to wash it all out. And it's just so amazing at that point. It's so exciting to see the result. Wow, just goes to show the time, the effort, the patience to make a pew pew. You also mentioned about harakeke flax, and that's a native plant in New Zealand, right? So you talked about grandparents. Could you maybe just expand on the concept behind that? Right. So if you've got a flax bush, the outside leaves are called grandparents. The slightly inner ones are the parents, and the ones right in the middle, they're called the child. So you've got this concept of parents and grandparents supporting and growing the new leaves from the center. Yeah, so you've got this sort of shape where the thumbs here are the babies, and the children, and who are looked after by the parents, and then looked after by their grandparents. Lovely. I see. Right, and something to be careful of and ensure you look after them. Before you cut the harakeke, it is customary practice, it's tikanga to do a karakia, a prayer, showing respect for the plant and asking for guidance and protection so that you're not going to then inadvertently cut yourself as well. So it's what you do. Thank you for explaining that, ngā waeta. You talked about the waistband and the pattern there. Is every pattern different or the same when it comes to the waistband pattern there? You can see the black and white design there. Well, Andrew, it's really up to the person who's making it. It's something that might be relevant to their own whakapapa, or it might be that they feel that their awa, their river, or their maunga, their mountain is significant to them, something that represents where they're from, or as part of a performance group, there might be something that they particularly want to signify, and you can choose colours that you would like as well. Oh, okay, Sheree, and why did you choose black and white in this particular design? Well, to start with, how it's made, you make a wooden frame which you clamp down to keep stable, and then every 2 centimeters you hammer in a nail along the frame, and then you string up the frame with a number of rows, and that overall size depends on the waist that you are designing this for. And then you choose a particular color of the thread that you're going to use. And for tāniko, you need to count and ensure that you're using what's called a 3, 6, 9 structure, where you've got a number of rows. You've got 3 rows, then 6 rows, then 9 rows in order to make the right shapes. You can't do like 2, 4, 6 or anything like that. It's important that you're always looking at first row, third row, sixth row, and ninth row to make sure a beautiful triangle shape. I use maths grid paper so that you can actually work out the design and how many stitches you need. So you might have a number of white stitches, say 4 white stitches, then 1 black stitch, and then you might have 5 white stitches and then 1 black stitch again, that sort of thing. And then you move on to the next row and you're working out, okay, well, before I had 4, so this time I need 3 white stitches and then a black stitch. And so you're able to work down the rows and make the perfect triangle shape. Oh my goodness, you really have to keep a real eye for detail and not just take it easy there. You've got to be very, very particular about the numbers, working with maths, and ensuring you're getting it right. Okay. That's quite hard. Sounds really challenging. Oh my goodness. And so you said you use a maths grid paper. So you then work out that design first, and then you copy that and make the real thing. You could go to the library. They have tāniko pattern books, things like that there. So it's okay to copy those designs. It's actually a real challenge and a good challenge to look at designs and then make something on your own grid paper and something beautiful and with your own designs. And so by transferring that onto your own paper, you can actually see, you're actually physically having to work out, okay, there's 3 stitches for that one of 6 here. Then you can really process it before you make the real thing. You know how many colors you need, at what point you need to change stitch colors and so on. So it is really complicated, but having those resources, it is difficult because you've got a small picture, and then when you're writing it on grid paper, you need it at a size that's comfortable and easy to see. Thanks very much. And ngā waiata, is there something that you'd like to discuss, something that you've made today? This kahu is made for my son. It's the perfect size for me to make because if I chose to make one for myself, I know that it was going to take a long time, a lot of work to get the fibers ready, and it would have taken months. I'd say, I might be, Sherry's right, you look at 4 to 6 months maybe, work on the harakeke flax, getting the fibers ready. So for a child, there's less work involved. So that might be, say, 3 to 5 months, something like that, which isn't too bad. But the hard thing is calculating the right size from the beginning, setting up the framing, and what you think you expect is going to be the right amount isn't. You then have to go back and scrape some more harakeke, get some more fibers. So when you think you've got the right sizing at the beginning and you find out that you don't, that's a bit frustrating. The reason for it is because the width of a harakeke leaf is wider than when you scrape it, take the green layer off, you've actually got less width of fibers, right? So that's what happens. You have less muka, less fibers in width compared to the width of a full harakeke leaf with the green layer on it. So yeah, once you take the green layer off, you've got less width. And that then means that's different when you're calculating how much you need. Right, so you then find out that you don't have enough, and that's more work. So you've got to make it right. And the muka is white here, but I'm thinking that harakeke leaves are green, aren't they? So what's the process to get to this end result? Well, as Cherie said, after cutting the harakeke leaves, you have to cut it into 2 centimetre widths. And so you then split the leaves long ways to make 2 centimetre widths of these leaves. And I think you probably need most people say you need about 1,000 of those. I start off with, say, 100 or 200 of these 2 centimetre width sections. And so with these 2 centimetre wide sections, you can then work out what you need. You don't cut it in the same way as the DeafPure, it's a different process, but I just cut directly down the middle of the leaf, and then I start doing the scraping on both sides of the harakeke leaf. It's not white at that point. At that point, you need to wash it, and you use soap. Have you heard of Sunlight? Yeah, Sunlight dishwashing liquid. Yeah, you have to use that to wash it. If you use different kinds of soap, it doesn't work. Oh, really? You've got to use Sunlight liquid. That's good advertising for that company, isn't it? Right. Yeah. So the washing process is quite arduous. To be honest, it's going to be frustrating to do this washing because it's something you've got to do again and again. It's a process you have to repeat. So you've got this stringy fiber material, right? Then that's what you're then washing directly. Yeah, so in the bin you can also use a cheese grater and put the fibres through the cheese grater with some sunlight soap as well, just to help get the fibres out and clean them a little bit more like that, and wash all the fibres in the water for about 1 or 2 days. And then, after that, you can take it out. It'll be bleached whiter at that point. There might still be a bit of green dye in the fibres from the harakeke, but and also if you see brown bruises, that's something that you just have to remove. They're not going to come out, so you just have to remove them from your process. So you might think at the beginning harakeke are quite wide and you don't need that many, but you need a lot. There's a lot of work to do and a lot of processing. Interesting. So you're talking about with a cheese grater. You can use a cheese grater as part of the process. Is that what you use for scraping? Oh, well, no, I don't. I use a potato peeler. Oh, right, you can use a potato peeler even. Well, yeah. You can. I mean, to scrape. I mean, but I mean, what I use, to get the muka, you can use mussel shells, right? Oh, right. Or if you get like a metal plate, a sharp metal plate. Oh, right. So that would have to be fairly sharp along the edge of that plate, right? Like a mussel shell has got a sharp edge to it. So traditionally, that's what was used to get the fibers out of the harakeke. I see. Yeah, and so you might break a mussel shell. You've really got to get rid of it and get a new one. Otherwise, you might end up cutting the fibers, and you only have a very short piece to work with. So, and it's really tiring on your hands. There's a lot of hard work, scraping and scraping. Just take some time. Come back the next day. It takes hours and hours and hours, days and days and days. Wow, it just goes to show how important it is to be so patient to achieve this. I think if you didn't have any patience, there's no way you could achieve this sort of result. I take my hat off to you both for your patience. No, well, never give up, never give up. It's something that we've really determined to achieve, and also to get our qualifications. And by being successful, we can then help others. That's what we really want to do, is to help others. I was going to ask one more thing. I can see here that on the waistband you've got a pattern, and then there's a pattern after that on the cloak itself. How do you manage to weave those all together with the different patterns? Well, first of all, you need to plait the fastening cords for the cloak, and then you need to create the foundation loops. After that, you create the taniko band. So it's it's pretty funny to me. It's a very complicated and challenging process. The reason I chose the design that I did is I wanted something that showed something that was dark to light, that symbolizes some of the dark past in my family that's now actually become really light. Yeah, so I tried to figure out how I could symbolize that and make a pattern. It was quite frustrating. You make mistakes, you go along one row and then you go, oh no, I've got to go back and do that row again. Because you could do one row and that's pretty straightforward when there's no pattern involved. It's the actual technique is fine, but as soon as you introduce a pattern, you've really got to do it methodically. As Cherie was saying, you might have 2 stitches and then 4 stitches or 5 stitches that you have to count across and ensure it's right. And I chose skin colours that were sort of dark to light, so I had alternating from dark and light colours. And that represents my family and my family and my partner, and what I've been able to impart to my child. That means my child has a unique culture. Yeah. And also I have 3 different pictures. The first one is an I love you sign, and that represents both my partner and myself, we're both deaf. In the middle, there's a picture of a face. My son really loves facial expression and all kinds. That's even his sign name is to do with facial expression as well. So, and then the third picture is my first daughter, represents her, which is a picture of a flower because that's what her name means in Māori. That's amazing. A lot of significant meaning there, ngā waiata, for your whānau, represented through this artwork. Amazing. Also, when it comes to plying the threads together with your palm, that can be quite difficult. Can you tell me a bit about that, ngā waiata? What does that mean? See here? Yeah, like this. Okay, so most people will use their palm and roll on a table or something to ply the threads together. I actually do it by hand, and work my way down, twisting the threads around each other. If you're going to make the right pattern, what if it's a whale pattern, or whatever you're doing there, or if you're going to make a potama, then you want to make sure that that's right. Potama is the idea of keeping on going and not giving up, and striving. Oh, I see. Yeah, so with the taniko technique, we've been able to create one, for example, with a whale and people riding the whale, and that's about being uplifted and taken in the right direction. Oh, I see. Do you have a whale pattern on your cloak? Yes, here. Thank you. And with the plying, you mentioned that there's two ways of doing that. How do you ensure that the ply is kept tight together and it doesn't fray or unravel? Well, it's quicker to use your palm of your hand and roll on a flat surface, but it was my first time doing that, so I was a bit frustrated not being able to do it that way. But you've just really got to make sure that each time you twist the threads together, that they're kept close to each other, because otherwise it won't stay. So the tighter you do it, the more it's going to stay in place. Right. And then at the end of the cloak, you've got a different look there. How do you ensure that it's made that way? Oh, yes. So at the end of the cloak, I've left that open, afraid I haven't done any more plying there. And for me, for my son, I've kind of kept it that way, and just kept it quite loose and open. If I had plied that, I would see that more for girls and have it plied the whole way down. But I mean, there's variation there. Some people decide to do that, and some people represent that as something for male and female and so on. But for me, I wanted to make it flat, and for me, that represents boys. Oh, I see. And you've got a very straight edge. Did you use scissors, or what was the technique for getting such a straight edge? Yes, well, once you have made the cloak, there will still be at the end different lengths of fibre, so you need to trim that and make a nice straight line. It's not going to look very appropriate to have a cloak with frayed edges on it. So how I go about it is I set up a wooden frame, and then I hang the cloak on it and stand back and check the right size, the length that I want, and then I get a bar, and that I put across the cloak, and then I use that as a guide to help me cut a straight line. Oh, you've got to have pretty sharp eyes to make sure you get that right. Oh, yes, you do. And, you take a few steps at cutting. You go, take a step back, come back, have another look, cut it a little bit more, just to be 100% sure you got it right. That's amazing. Well, thank you so much, Ngā and Cherie, for telling us about the rich history and the meaning, your skills, your knowledge, the technical language, the signs you've got. Your experience is just huge around this. It's amazing. What a great conversation. I've had such a good conversation with you. And thank you so much for your time and having the conversation with us today. And to everybody, thank you for being part of the kōrero with us today. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Thank you.